Hello and welcome to episode 69 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, we automate the assembly line with the subnet, build a tree growth simulator to address wood supply chain issues, and we upgrade the Cain boosted diesel production line using a dangote distillus and addressing all bottlenecks. I put this off long enough, now let's automate the assembly line. Like I mentioned at the end of the last episode, the way we do this is similar to what we did for the infusion altar. So we're going to have storage buses on each of these input buses. And we're going to have descending priority starting on this side, because this is the side where the controller is. So the priority here will be, say, 15, 14, 13, 12, and so on. This is, 11 long? So it's 10 inputs and 1 output slot. So step 1 is place your storage buses. Also place your fluid storage buses. Step 2 is set the priorities on all of these. I'm just going to start on the opposite end and start at 0. And do the same thing for the fluid storage buses as well. Cool, so to reiterate, these buses, starting on the assembly line controller side, have the highest priority, and the priority decreases as you go to the opposite end. Next, we connect all of these to AE2, but we do not connect it to our main network. So this output bus connects to our main network, and I'm going to paint that red. But we want to connect to a subnetwork, and this subnetwork is specifically for this assembly line. So I have a controller here, which I'm going to place here, and connect it all up with cables. I am going to paint these opposite colors like this for each slice of this assembly line, so that there's no weirdness with how the channels are distributed. Something like this. Now I'm going to bring this main network cable over for 2 reasons. First of all, to power this controller. The reason it has power now is because it was connected for a hot second, but as you can see, it's going down. We do want this to be powered, of course, and a quartz fiber will do that. The second reason, this is where the interfaces come in, where we put in the patterns and we also do a little bit of blocking logic. We've got our cables like this, they're facing each other. We're going to put in 2 dual interfaces touching each other like this. This red one on the main net is, of course, the same dual interface as what we put on any other machine, so this is going to hold our recipe. And this is the one that gets renamed. Also, we want to change the blocking mode on this interface to do not push crafting items if inventory contains items. That way, we don't get any weird conflicting recipes. And on this receiving dual interface, we put in an advanced blocking card. And that should be it. So now if I just put in a recipe here, I should be able to request 63 more electric motors. Let's try it out. So I still have to make the data access hatch to be able to do more than just this one recipe. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you're doing stuff with the interface terminal and putting in new recipes. You do also need to put in the scan in the data access hatch. And looks like it's working. Perfect. Also, I just realized that this is actually LUV. I just made the advanced data access hatch. Now that we have the data access hatch, I can put in all of these sticks. I'm just missing the emitter and sensor for the whole suite of LUV components. And once I finish this quest, and I guess also the next quest, I'll talk about my plans for the immediate future. Because, as you probably saw in the intro, I'm running out of wood somehow. Like, I barely have any wood. So there's a lot of really basic things that are starting to go wrong here at HamCorp. Like, I'm not making enough of some really fundamental things. So I need to refactor some things to allow the base to expand in a way that makes sense for the coming tiers. So there are many things around the base I want to address. First of all, I am not producing wood fast enough, and that can escalate and become a problem, because if I don't have enough wood, then I don't have enough benzene, and if I don't have enough benzene, then I don't have enough cetane boosted diesel, and if I don't have enough cetane boosted diesel, then I don't have enough power, and if I don't have enough power, then I don't have anything. So this is kind of a pretty fundamental thing I need to fix here. Luckily, there is a better alternative to just spamming more saplings, and that is the tree growth simulator. This cute little multi is extremely powerful. So depending on the tool you supply it with, you get a multiplier for the outputs, and depending on the energy hatch, you get a further multiplier. The processing time is fixed at 5 seconds, like it says in the tooltip, And with an IV energy hatch and with a chainsaw, if I'm doing the math here correctly, then I would be getting a 180 times multiplier. And that means every 5 seconds, I would be making 900 wood. And that's pretty good. Actually, double that because spruce saplings give you more. So 1,800 wood every 5 seconds, I think is more than enough to keep up with my needs. And it would let me expand the benzene production if I so wanted. And actually, this could also be used as a source of redstone, because with a blood sapling, I could get more blood saplings, blood leaves, and redstone. And blood leaves can be extracted into redstone, and blood saplings, I believe, can also maybe be extracted into redstone. Yes, indeed. So this could be another source of redstone if I find that I don't have enough redstone. Yeah, there's a lot of different saplings you can put in here with all kinds of different things. Mostly useless, but there's a few hidden gems. So I think I'm going to start off with that. But after that, my Lapidronic supercapacitor is certainly not big enough. So I want to expand this. Luckily, that's easy with this multi-block. I just need to add more layers to the top. So that should be pretty straightforward. After that, the power output is honestly not great. Right now I'm doing 4 amps of LUV, which sounds like a lot, but I think I consume more than that. And I think it's quite a lot more than that. Especially if all the machines are running at the same time, it's going to be a lot of power. So I also do want to upgrade the power output of this LSC, and that also means I'm going to have to upgrade the power input. These combustion gens are no longer going to be enough. The nuclear plant is also no longer going to be enough. And to address that, I do want to redo the cetane boosted diesel setup. And maybe I'll put down a few more nukes, and maybe I'll look into the vacuum nukes as well. It would also be fun to look at maybe nitrobenzene, because I could do that now. Or even some hog. Indeed. We could have done this the previous tier, but I didn't see the need. But we can make high-octane gasoline. I don't think this is very commonly done, but I've done this before and it's pretty fun. And high-octane gasoline is nice because you can burn it in the extreme combustion engine. This thing is basically the upgraded version of the regular combustion engine, but it can only burn hog. Well, it can also burn jet fuel, but I think that's better used elsewhere, so hog it is. So there's a few more processing lines in the future, which should be a lot of fun. I want to run around the base and kind of get an estimate of how much power I'm going to need, assuming everything is running at the same time, which is never going to happen. But just to be safe, I do want to consider that situation, and maybe I'll go for like 50 to 80% of that power demand as my goal. After that, we can talk about more refactoring. Specifically with the chemicals plant here, a lot of these things don't need to be on passive, and a lot of these things really do, and they're not on passive enough. For example, my sulfuric acid, it gets gobbled up quite quickly and takes a long time to recover, so I need to upgrade that. But then there's polyethylene, which I barely use, yet I have it here on passive. Instead, I should just have it kind of crafted on demand, because it's a very quick craft anyway. So all kinds of little adjustments around the base need to be made, and I need to kind of just go into every building and think about each one. And then see where it makes sense to upgrade things to multi-blocks. I think in most places that's going to be the case. But I'm sure there's a few places where it would even make sense to downgrade to a single block, because a multi-block is just overkill. Lots of reworks need to happen. And that's just a part of GTNH, I guess. Especially because this is the first time I'm getting this far in the game, so I didn't really build this expecting what comes in the future. And I don't really know what comes in the future, and I don't want to know. I want to figure it out myself and just deal with it as it happens, because I think that's pretty fun. But anyway, top of my list right now, tree growth simulator. Now, as part of the tree growth simulator, I need to make an integral framework 1. This needs molten arcanite, and molten arcanite needs thorium-232. There's a couple of different ways to get thorium-232, and I think the simplest and easiest one for me, though certainly not the best way, would just be to centrifuge some quad fuel rods of depleted thorium. 2 of them will give me a 50% chance for 1 thorium-232 dust, and I need 8. And I have close to a stack of depleted thorium quad fuel rods. This is kind of a tough decision, to be honest, because there's another way that I could do, and that's just centrifuging thorium dust. But the probabilities here are terrible, and the energy cost is immense. So here we are in the benzene/rocket fuel part of the oil processing plant. I set up the TGS. This drawer filled up so fast, in like less than a minute. So huge, huge, huge upgrade over what I had before. And that happened even with the fact that I downgraded to an EV energy hatch. I only did that so I could plug it in here without having to transform. And this is still, like, plenty. A little bit more than half as fast as the IV energy hatch, but yeah, more than enough. Now for the TGS to work, you need to supply one sapling. It's not consumed, so you can put it in the, like this slot of the controller. Inside this input bus is a chainsaw. This gives us a ×4 multiplier. Now the chainsaw is a little, I'm not totally sure how to automate this because there are kind of two durabilities going on. There's the durability and then there's the charge. And with each operation of the TGS, you lose a little bit of both. If there was just a single durability, this would be pretty easy to automate, but I'm not sure what to do about this. It's not a big deal because I only have to replace the chainsaw once every 22 hours of processing time. And as you can see, it's not even close to 100% uptime. So really, this is going to be like, I don't know, 200, 250 hours, and then I have to think about this. I did have a setup here. I don't think it's going to work. I have an item conduit with a whitelisted uncharged chainsaw, but it has full durability, so I don't think that's going to work. I'm sure there's like some fuzzy upgrade or something that will let me ignore the durability, but I don't know if that also ignores the charge, because we don't want that. The logic being that once this chainsaw has 0 charge, no matter what the durability is, it gets sent into this battery charger, and then once it's fully charged, I use this whitelisted item conduit to send it back into the input bus. Also, I'm now noticing that I did not turn on the inserts. But yeah, plenty of wood. Now I do want to increase the capacity of my main LSC. One thing to remember when you upgrade your Lapatronic supercapacitor is that any energy detector covers that you have on the controller need to be updated. These don't update by themselves. So now I can store 10 to the 10 EU. So it's going to be some time before this is full. And this is at full power production. And I have basically nothing running. So I need to also upgrade my power production. So I've done a quick run through of the base, looked at all of my machines, multi-block and single block. So including applied energistics, including the farm, basically everything. If every single machine were to be running in this base, I would use 1.1 million EU per tick. That's about 35 amps of LUV, and I currently make a little bit more than 2, almost 3 amps of LUV. So I do need quite a bit more power, and the very first thing I want to do is redo the oil processing. There are a lot of upgrades I can do here, just in terms of overclocking LCRs, for example, upgrading the coils on these oil crackers, replacing the distillation towers with dangote distilluses. This is like a GT++ version of the distillation tower, and it's 250% faster. And it does parallels, so just better. A little expensive, but definitely worth it. That will increase my cetane boosted diesel production, probably by a lot. Even right now, I don't use the diesel as fast as I produce it, so I'm going to be able to make a lot more of these combustion engines. We'll see how much power we're at that point, and if I'm at, say, 16 amps of LUV or more, then I'll stop there, but I kind of doubt I'm going to make it that far. To make the dangote distillus, I need a chemical plant. I'm not going to set up a permanent one. I'm just going to throw one together for this craft and then disassemble it, because then I have to go through the whole figuring out how to automate it. We're also going to need the distillus upgrade chip. This needs a Woods glass lens, which needs a mixer recipe of stuff that we have. And I've gone through the math for oil processing, and I'm kind of getting some unbelievable numbers here. Based on how fast this is, and the number of parallels, and the fact that I have IV energy hatches now, I think, ignoring byproducts, just from making cetane boosted diesel, I think I can make 1.1 million EU per tick, which is basically what I said was the cost of running every machine in my base at the same time. So that's kind of crazy. Of course, I'm going to need a lot more of these combustion gens to accomplish that. And I don't know, I'm almost convinced I made a mistake somewhere here, but I don't know where, because that's like crazy. It also assumes I'm able to pump the oil fast enough to keep up, which I don't think is the case. But no matter what it is, it's going to be a significant upgrade from what I have here. And that's not even including like refinery gas and naphtha. Those two actually go into making gasoline. So if I decide to do some hog later, I'm gonna need naphtha and refinery gas. So for now, I think I'm just gonna stockpile those instead of cracking them. Yeah, this setup might end up looking quite different from the way it is right now. But you've seen oil before, so I'm just gonna do this off camera and I'll show you the changes. The hardest thing about making this distillus is these integral frameworks, because they need arcanite, which, as you may remember, needs thorium-232. Before, I centrifuged the fuel rods, but now I really don't have enough because I need 80 thorium-232 to get this done. But I looked a little harder, and I think this may be the best way to get thorium-232. There's a chemical plant recipe with boric acid, distilled water, and thorium dust, all of which we have. Well, we don't have boric acid, but this is easily made also in a chemical plant with borax dust and hydrochloric acid. Okay, I have redone the entire cetane boosted diesel line. I say entire, but it's not that long to be honest. The main differences here are now there's a dangote distillus. This thing is extremely fast, super fast. I put the quad LCR setup on its side because I found it a little bit easier to access the spots that are shared between all 4 chemical reactors. I skipped the ammonia step in making nitric acid, and I just make it directly. And all the super tank buffers here have been upgraded to super tank 4s. So everything has a buffer size of 32,000 liters. Some of these machines are at IV, some of these are at HV, just based on the speed of the recipes. So there are absolutely no bottlenecks here at all. Assuming we have infinite oil, the bottleneck is the dangote. And I've kind of sort of left space to make a second dangote, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But this is not our bottleneck. Our bottleneck is actually oil. We're not pumping it fast enough. And that's a good problem to have, I think. That's our light fuel and heavy fuel dealt with. I think we make a little bit of excess heavy fuel, actually. But we have a backlog of light fuel right now because we're not burning the cetane boosted diesel fast enough. And that leaves us with these two, refinery gas and naphtha. Before, I was cracking and distilling the refinery gas, and I think also the naphtha, or it might have been heavy fuel because I have excess heavy fuel. And I think I just left naphtha as it is. But now we're going to be using refinery gas and naphtha, not to crack, but to make raw gasoline. So we need 16K naphtha and 2K refinery gas for 20K raw gasoline. We're also going to need acetone and methanol, so I'm going to have to source those somehow. I might make them locally. I don't know, I haven't decided. That's still going to leave us with a lot of extra refinery gas. So I think for right now, until I figure out whether or not I'm going to do hog, I'm just going to set these to void overflow. And then once I have hog, I'm going to do stuff with priorities, I think, so that the refinery gas first goes into hog production and then any excess will get cracked. And I'm going to do something similar with the light fuel and heavy fuel. Cool. A lot more tidy than what I had before, I think. A little bit harder to see what's going on at first glance, but what the fuck was that? Did you see that? Okay, that was actually not me. I've done stuff like that before, like for the Halloween special, but I don't know what that was. What the fuck? Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will start to seriously ramp up our power production using a multitude of different generation methods. Management is still looking at employee feedback to determine the best course of action, but we will likely start with HOG, high-octane gasoline, since that is a natural continuation of what we worked on today, and it's called HOG. See you next time.